Hello and welcome. In this session, we will go through the award interpretation and submitting hours to payroll. The first method is to submit the hours to payroll if there is no award interpretation implemented. This means the hours which the employees have applied for, the managers have accepted. The payroll officer can decide to submit these hours approved by the managers to payroll exactly as they have been approved. So for example, if 40 hours are approved, 40 hours will be submitted to the payroll. The second method is to use hours and submit them to payroll using the award interpretation, which we will go through in this demonstration. To look at how we do this, we click on Synchronize on the left menu. The first thing to do is to click on Timesheets and Payments. You can see that on this screen we will have some action buttons at the top. We have Submit to Payroll button, and then we have Reject, just in case if you would like to reject some hours. Let's talk about Submit to Payroll. When I click on this option, I have two different options under this button. The first one is to submit all of the approved hours that I can see on the screen to payroll directly. Again, if I have the award interpretation set up, those hours will first be interpreted and then submitted to payroll. The second is to submit some selected employees. So if I would like to submit selected employees' hours to the payroll, I can do so. We will look at that in a moment. The next thing to look at is this toggle button, Test Submit. If I click on this one, it will change to red, which is Live Submit. I can interpret the hours as many times as I would like in the Test Submit toggle. This means the hours will not directly go to payroll yet. Once I'm happy with the hours, I can toggle this back to Live, which the color is red because it tells me that your data will be submitted to payroll directly and it's live. For the sake of this demonstration, we will keep this at Test Submit to go through some of the functionalities. Let's take a look at some of these employees. We've got Gareth, Peter and Adam. The positions and the total hours that they've applied for and they have been approved. On the right hand side, you can see each day of the week. We've got three different colors: green for approved, red for rejected, and blue for submitted but not approved yet. On the right hand side to that, I can interpret or I can submit one employee at a time, or I can reject one employee at a time. For the sake of this example, I'm going to submit all the employees at once. I can do so by clicking on Submit to Payroll and Submit All. When I click this button, it goes through the award interpretation. It looks at all the rules that have been set up based on the award or the EBAs, which are the Enterprise Bargaining Agreements. Based on those rules, it will translate the total hours for each of these employees into different categories which have been specified. Let's take a look at how this is done. And then we will look at some of the basic rules of how they're set up and how they're translated into different hours. I will click on Submit All. It asks me if I'm sure to go ahead and I click OK. This now goes through all of the process of looking at the rules. My hours are ready, as I can see a little icon appearing here. I can click on Submit Results here. The first thing I can see is the dates for the payroll. It says it's from the 16th of March to 22nd of March. For your payroll, this will be different. I can see the list of the employees in here: Gareth, Peter and Adam. Now if you can see here on the right hand side, the hours are now broken down into different categories. We've got ordinary hour, overtime 150%, meal allowance and overtime. This will be different for each company based on their award or EBAs. These employees had some ordinary hours coming from the total hours that they submitted. Peter also did overtime, so he gets 3 hours at overtime rate of 150%. Due to some rules for Adam, he gets 2 meal allowance. These are in units. And there will be some overtime 200% as well, which applies to this employee. Once I'm happy with this, I can now live submit this to payroll. I can do so by bringing my mouse over Test Submit. I click on this, which will change to Live Submit. I click Submit to Payroll and Submit All or Submit Selected. Now that we have seen this, let's take a look at some of the work rules which have been set up to break the total hours into these different categories that we can see on the screen. To look at those rules, we click on the work rules on the left hand side. Then we look at the settings. Once we click on the settings, on the screen you can see a number of different rules which have been set up for the sake of demonstration. We are interested in the one which is related to this demonstration. To see that, I click on all of the work rules to show me everything. I scroll down and I'm looking at the bus driver EBA demonstration. On the left hand side, I have the option to click Edit. Once I click the Edit, now it brings me all of the sub-rules which are relevant to the hours that I have submitted. For example, as you can see, the title is written here. There's a description of the actual rule or the EBA setup. When I scroll down, I can see the title for each of these rules and a bit of a description for each one of them. Then, on the right hand side, we have some controls such as edit, delete, or deactivate this rule. Let's take a look at this meal allowance work rule. The rule says if an employee is not casual and if they work more than 10 hours in a day, they receive a meal allowance. Let's see how this is set up. I click on the right hand side Edit button. It brings me the details for the rule. As you can see, the title and descriptions are mentioned here. In the bottom, this is how it's set up. If an employment type is not casual, if they work on a weekday, and if the day hours are more than 10, then you add the units to a pay code which is called a meal allowance, and that's a per day allowance. Let's take a look at a more complex one. I click OK here. Then I look at the full-time drivers working between 8 to 11 hours in a day. This is my description. On the right hand side, I click on Edit. This is a far more complex rule, which says if the employment type is not casual and if they're working on a weekday. If the hours are between 11 and 8, then consider any hours after the 8 to be overtime 150%. Then anything else which is below 8, consider all of them to be ordinary hour. This is how the engine goes through all the hours and comes up with smart ways of breaking them down into different categories. For the sake of this demonstration, we were just showing you 2 of the rules. However, for your own EBA or award, there will be a number of these set up, which could take 10 or even hundreds of them. This is the end of demonstration for how the award interpretation works. Thank you.